Hey guys, a couple weeks ago I was asked a rather interesting question. As a Dragoon, when would it be best to use Blood for Blood for maximum DPS, and is there ever a situation where holding Blood for Blood gives an increase in damage? What we're going to do first is discuss how to swing your cooldowns to get more global cooldowns within the buff duration, and then go a bit in depth into actual Blood for Blood usage. I will be using the Dragoon as an example, but the same rules apply for every single job out there. What many people tend to do is use their cooldowns the second it becomes available. More commonly, use them right after they've used a global cooldown. I mean, it's the most logical thing to do, right? You want to weave all the abilities in and minimize the chance of any global cooldown clipping. In this game, depending on the job that you're playing, your global cooldown ranges between 2 to 2.4 seconds on average. Global cooldown skills on average have an animation lock of 1.2 seconds, followed by an approximate 0.5 animation lock on many of our instant cast abilities such as Blood for Blood and Internal Release. Therefore, you still have around a second or so to actually weave Blood for Blood and Internal Release, or any other cooldown for that matter, in between your global cooldowns. Now that this has been established, let's actually see how we can use latency and skill speed to our advantage to maximize the amount of global cooldown skills used within a single buff duration. Let's break down these two clips side by side. On the left you have your typical Dergoon, and on the right is a Dragoon holding down Blood for Blood. Let's zoom all the way into our hotbar to see the Blood for Blood in activation. As we can see, our Dergoon is smashing that Blood for Blood and trying to get it off as soon as he can, whereas our Dragoon is still patiently waiting. He finally activates it after his global cooldown animation lock and uses it 2/3 of the way through his global cooldown. If we look at the second full frost damage, it was around 300 more. Holding down Blood for Blood for that half a second allowed me to get one additional cooldown within its duration. Instead of 8 buffed abilities, I got 9 in. If you want to gauge it by eyesight, as long as you're activating the ability either halfway or 3/4 through your global cooldown, you should always be able to hit 9 abilities with no clipping whatsoever. As long as you're not getting any random lag spikes, and as long as you hit all of your abilities perfectly with no delay. Of course, this is slightly related to your latency and skill speed. With WTF-Fast or any other similar VPN tunneling service like Ping Zapper, I'm playing with around 96 MS and need around 390 skill speed in order to actually maximize the Blood for Blood usage. And of course, players with much lower latency will also require a lot less skill speed in order to get 9 global cooldowns within a Berserk. If you're around 20 MS, you only need around 370 skill speed to actually do this. The same applies for ninjas and monks. Unfortunately, I do not know the exact skill speed thresholds to maximize cooldown usage for these two jobs, but the rule still will be the same. Use your abilities halfway to 3/4 through global cooldown, and then analyze your own skill speed and latency and draw your own conclusions from there. This spreadsheet was originally created by Odin Soman on Reddit, and I added a few more things to it to see the potency per second benefits of Blood for Blood. This is mainly targeted towards Dragoons, but other jobs can set up a very similar spreadsheet. The first column is a total potency of said skill, taking into consideration disembowel. The second column is the potency of the skill when it's now under the effect of Blood for Blood. And the third column is the total potency of 9 cooldown abilities when using Blood for Blood before this said ability. The potencies that have been bolded give the highest potency when using Blood for Blood. Ideally, you want to use Blood for Blood before either a Chaos Thrust, Phlebotomize, or a Full Thrust, with a slight bias of using Blood for Blood behind either a Full Thrust or a Phlebotomize. Using Blood for Blood before Chaos Thrust in your opener, as you may have noticed earlier on, gives you a fully buffed Chaos Thrust, Phlebotomize, along with 2 full Thrust combos, one of which will be a guaranteed crit. If you've been observant and have been looking at the average Blood for Blood potency table, you may have already noticed that holding Blood for Blood for Chaos Thrust is actually an overall potency decrease. You're correct in saying that, but before we discuss why a lot of Dragoons and myself are switching to using Blood for Blood before Chaos Thrust, I want to talk about the table to the right. Now that we've established where it's best to use Blood for Blood, the next logical step would be to ask ourselves, well, is there ever a time where we should delay the usage of this buff for a DPS increase? I took Odin Soman's work and modified it slightly to incorporate a skill speed model, which allowed me to see the average potency per second of using Blood for Blood before different abilities, with varying skill speeds. I set the skill speed at the top to 391, as this is the average skill speed needed to get 9 global cooldowns within 1 Blood for Blood, taking into account the average latency of players. Again, we can see in the first column that using Blood for Blood before Chaos Thrust, Full Thrust and Phlebotomize also gives us the highest potency per second. But what happens when we delay the cooldown usage of Blood for Blood by 1 full global cooldown? And we can see the results in the second column, hold for 1 global cooldown. In 1 full Dragoon rotation, we can see, as highlighted in red, there are 2 points where delaying Blood for Blood for 1 global cooldown will give you a potency per second increase, but the skill order is pretty much the same. The only time it's acceptable is if Blood for Blood becomes available at Vorpal Thrust and the next abilities in the rotation goes Full Thrust, followed by either a Heavy Thrust or Phlebotomized, followed by a Full Thrust combo and ending with a Chaos Thrust combo. And as you can see, I've highlighted the specific areas on the spreadsheet. Holding Blood for Blood at any other part in the rotation results in a DPS decrease. Holding Blood for Blood for 2 global cooldowns is a straight DPS decrease, and you should never do so. Going back to the statement I made earlier, a lot of us are using Blood for Blood before Chaos Thrust in the opener. Technically this is a PPS loss, as you can see in the spreadsheet, but there's many reasons why it's best to use it before this ability. Applying Blood for Blood before Chaos Thrust makes the cooldown management of the rotation to be a lot more fluid, and as a consequence allows us to hit all of the high potency thresholds consistently. As we're hitting Blood for Blood on the 3 core abilities Chaos Thrust, Full Thrust and Phlebotomize all the time, this results in a direct potency per second increase. There will be a link to this exact spreadsheet in the description box down below, so you guys can draw some of your own conclusions. If you enjoyed this video and thought it was presented well, please do give it a thumbs up, as it will allow me to see what you guys actually enjoy watching and also help improve the quality of my videos in the long run. So guys, thank you for watching, take care, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.